He lived a quiet life in a busy city. Every morning he woke up before sunrise and prepared for another long day. He worked hard, but never complained. His room was small and simple, the walls were plain, and the windows showed only other buildings. Often felt invisible, like the world moved fast while he stood still. She lived not far away, but her life felt different. She carried responsibilities early in life. She cared for others before herself. Her days were filled with work and small duties. She smiled often, but inside she felt tired. She believed strong people do not talk about pain. They did not know each other. They did not even know they existed. Yet both felt the same empty space inside their hearts. They moved through crowds feeling alone. They both believed love was something that happened to other people one normal day. Their paths crossed. It was not planned. It was not special. It happened during a moment people usually forget. He was walking with his head down thinking about bills and work. She was rushing while holding her phone. Their shoulders touched for a second. They both stopped. He turned back and looked at her. She looked up at him. Their eyes met briefly. There was no smile, no words, no apology. Just a quiet moment, where time felt slower. Then they walked away. He continued walking, but something felt strange. His heart felt heavy and light at the same time. He did not understand why that small moment stayed in his mind longer than it should have, he told himself. It meant nothing. She walked forward but slowed her steps. Her thoughts drifted away from her tasks. She felt a calm feeling she had not felt in years. She tried to shake it off and focus on her day's past life. Continued. The city stayed loud and crowded, but inside them something had shifted. They started noticing small things more, the sound of footsteps, the way light fell on the road. The silence after long days. He started sitting by the window at night, thinking about nothing and everything. He wondered why he felt less alone, yet still lonely. He questioned his routine. He wondered if life was meant to feel this empty shit. Found herself pausing. During her day, she looked around more often. She noticed faces she never noticed before. She wondered if someone out there felt the same way she did. They crossed paths again days later. This time it was clearer. They stood near the same place waiting. Their presence felt familiar even before they looked at each other. When their eyes met again, something felt warm. No words were spoken again. They walked away, but this time the moment stayed longer in their hearts. They both felt it. They both tried to ignore. Eth told himself. Focus on work. Focus on survival. Love is not for people like him, he believed. Dreams only bring disappointment, she told herself. Do not hope. Do not expect life already taught enough lessons. She believed caring too much only leads to pain. Yet something pulled them toward the same place again and again, without planning, without knowing why. They began to expect those quiet moments. They waited without admitting it. One evening the sky looked soft and calm. He stood there longer than usual. She arrived late and looked tired. Their eyes met again. This time neither walked away. They stood in silence. The noise of the city faded. The moment felt safe, not awkward. He finally spoke with a soft voice. He said hello. She nodded and replied. The conversation was simple words about the day, about work, about nothing important. Yet it felt important. They spoke slowly, as if afraid to break the moment. They did not share names. They did not ask personal questions. They only shared small thoughts and small smiles, but something deeper was forming when they parted that evening. They both felt something new, a quiet hope mixed with fear. They did not know what it was, but they knew it mattered. That night he slept better than he had in years. His thoughts were calm. His heart felt lighter that night. She looked at the ceiling. Smiling softly, she felt seen even without being known. They did not realize it yet, but their lives had already started to change. This was only the beginning. After that evening, their quiet meetings became part of their days, not planned yet expected. Both pretended it was coincidence, but their hearts knew better. They arrived at the same place around the same time. Almost every day. At first they spoke very little. It's just small talk about weather, work, tired days. Sometimes they stood in silence. That felt comfortable silence that did not need words. He noticed how she listened carefully when he spoke, even when his words were simple. She noticed how he never interrupted and always waited for her to finish speaking. These small things mattered more than they realized. Slowly, the walls around their hearts began to soften. He started sharing small pieces of his life, not the pain yet.
Ow.
Just simple things like how mornings felt heavy or how nights felt long. She shared how responsibilities filled her days and how rest felt like a luxury. They laughed quietly, sometimes not loud laughter, just soft smiles that came naturally. The kind of smiles that come when someone feels safe. Days turned into weeks, their meetings grew longer, they walked together. For short distances before going their separate ways, those walks became the best part of their day. He began to look forward to those moments more than anything else. Work felt easier knowing he would see her later. Even his tiredness felt lighter. She felt the same. Her days still carried weight, but his presence made the load feel less heavy. She did not talk about it, but her heart felt calm. They never spoke about love, not once. Yet it existed between them in quiet ways, in how they noticed when the other looked tired and how they waited for each other. Even when running late one evening, she did not come. He waited longer than usual. He told himself not to worry, but his chest felt tight. He checked the road again and again. Finally, he left. Feeling empty that night, his thoughts were restless. He realized how much her presence had become part of his life. The idea surprised him and scared him. The next day, she arrived late. She looked exhausted. Her eyes carried something heavy. He wanted to ask what happened, but stayed quiet. She thanked him for waiting. Her voice was soft. They walked slowly. She shared that life sometimes demands more than a person can give. She did not explain further. He listened without pushing. He simply said, she was not alone. Those words stayed with her longer than anything anyone had said before. She felt understood without being questioned from. That day, their bond grew deeper. Trust formed without promises. Care existed without labels. They supported each other in simple ways. He remembered things she mentioned. She noticed when he skipped meals. They reminded each other to rest, to breathe, to keep going. One day, rain surprised the city. They stood under a small shelter together. The sound of rain filled the space between them. Felt warm and close. They did not touch yet. The closeness felt powerful for a moment. He almost reached out, but fear stopped him. Fear of ruining something beautiful. She felt it, to the unspoken feeling hung between them. When the rain stopped, they walked apart slower than usual. Neither wanted the moment to end. That night, both lay awake thinking about the same thing. The growing feeling they were afraid to name. Days later, someone from her past appeared, bringing confusion and pressure. She grew distant, not intentionally, but the weight showed. He noticed immediately. He wanted to help, but did not know how. He worried about crossing boundaries. He stayed patient, even when it hurt. She felt guilty for pulling away. She feared depending on someone again. Fear whispered that closeness leads to pain. One evening, she did not speak much. He sensed it. He said softly that he was there whenever she wanted to talk. No pressure, no demand. Her eyes filled with tears, but she held them back. She nodded. That simple kindness touched her deeply. After that, she slowly opened up. She shared pieces of her past, not everything. Just enough for him to understand why trust scared her. He did not judge. He did not try to fix anything. He simply stayed. That was when she realized this was different. This was not noise or excitement. This was peace. To realize that what he felt was deeper than friendship, yet fear still lived inside him. Fear of not being enough. Fear of losing what they had. Their connection continued to grow quietly. The world around them stayed the same, busy, loud, uncaring. But in their small, shared moments, something gentle existed. They did not know what the future held. But they both knew one thing: their lives were no longer the same. Something real was forming, something fragile, something beautiful, and neither of them was ready to walk away. Life slowly began to test what they were building. The calm moments started facing pressure from the outside world. Small problems appeared, then grew heavier. He began struggling more at work. Long hours, less pay, more stress some days. He arrived late, tired, and quiet. She noticed immediately. She did not ask too much, but she stayed beside him. She was also facing her own battles: family expectations, responsibilities, and constant pressure to choose a safe path. Her heart felt pulled in two directions. They both tried to protect each other by hiding pain, but silence sometimes creates distance without meaning. To an evening, he arrived late again. She had waited longer than usual. Worry turned into frustration. She asked if everything was fine. He said yes too quickly. She felt the distance in his voice. It hurt more than she expected. She turned quiet. He noticed but did not know how to fix it that night. They walked apart, feeling heavier than before. They both replayed the moment in their minds, wondering if they were already losing something precious. The next days felt different. Their conversations were shorter. Smiles came less easily. The warmth was still there, but covered by uncertainty. He feared opening up would make him look weak, he believed. He needed to carry everything alone. She feared asking questions would push him away. She believed patience was safer than honesty. Misunderstandings grew quietly. No arguments, no harsh words. Just small gaps that widened with time. One day she did not show up. He waited longer than usual. Then longer still, she did not come. His chest felt tight. Fear replaced patience. He left feeling empty again. Later that night, she sent a simple message saying she needed space. Nothing more. Those words stayed in his mind. Space felt like distance. Distance felt like lost days passed without meeting. The routine they built vanished. Suddenly life felt loud and empty. Again he tried to focus on work, but his thoughts stayed with her. He questioned everything. Did he do something wrong? Did he fail without realizing? She tried to focus on her duties, but her heart felt restless. Space did not bring peace. It only made the absence louder. Family pressure increased. Voices around her told her to choose stability. To avoid uncertainty, they did not see what she felt inside. She felt torn between what felt safe and what felt real. One evening she almost went to see him. Her feet stopped halfway. Fear held her back. He almost went looking for her too, but pride and doubt kept him still. Both waited, both hoped, both suffered in silence. Weeks passed. They both changed quietly. He became more withdrawn. She became more tired. Then one day they crossed paths unexpectedly. The moment shocked them. Both froze. They stood facing each other, unsure what to say. The distance felt unfamiliar and painful. He finally asked if she was okay. She nodded slowly. She asked the same. He nodded. They stood there longer than planned. Silence spoke louder than words. She admitted she was scared. Scared of building something that could break. Scared of choosing wrong. He admitted he felt lost. He feared not being enough. He feared holding her back. For the first time they spoke honestly about their fears. It was painful, but relief formed, but did not fall. Emotions stayed close to the surface. They realized love alone does not remove fear. It only reveals it. That night they parted without answers, but something shifted. Honesty had entered their bond. Days after that were slow, careful, gentle. They met again, but with caution. They tried to rebuild trust through patience. Not promises, not big words, just presence. Reality did not soften. Responsibilities did not pause. Problems did not disappear. One hard decision stood ahead, a choice that could separate them further or demand sacrifice. Neither wanted to face it, yet time pushed forward. They stood at a crossroad. Love asked for courage. Life demanded compromise. Both wondered how much one heart could carry. The test had begun, and the outcome was uncertain. Life moved on, but it had taken a different shape. The moments they shared became fewer. Distance grew without words. Each continued with their own struggles, but the thought of the other lingered. He focused more on work. Long hours, late nights. Even when it tired him, he tried to fill the emptiness with activity. Yet at the end of the day, the absence felt heavier. She took on more responsibilities, caring for family and work. She stayed busy, yet moments of silence reminded her of him. The space she asked for had become a weight she could not shake. They both missed each other without saying it. They thought of meeting, but stopped themselves, fearing the pain that could follow. Months past. Life did not wait. Both changed. Slowly their hearts still remembered each other, but reality demanded attention. They grew in ways that distance forced them to grow. Here learned to rely on himself more. He discovered strength he had not known. He also realized how much he valued moments. With her, moments that once felt small now seemed priceless. She learned to stand firmly in the middle of pressure. She understood the importance of choosing carefully, yet her heart remembered the comfort he had given her. Thoughts often returned. 2 quiet evenings and soft conversations. They lived parallel lives, connected only through memory. Every time something reminded them of each other, their hearts beat faster. Every shared memory felt like a gentle touch in the middle of chaos one day. He walked past a place they used to meet. He stopped for a long time, looking at the empty street. The echo of her presence felt alive in his mind. She walked past the same place at a different time. She paused, her chest felt tight. The place was the same, yet everything had changed. Both carried regret, yet hope lingered like a quiet flame. It refused to die. They did not reach out, not yet, not until they understood themselves fully. Letters could have helped, words could have bridged the gap. But pride and fear kept them silent. They chose to live and wait rather than risk a heartbreaking further. He began writing in secret small notes about feelings he could not speak, aloud notes about memories, about hopes, about fear. They stayed tucked in a drawer untouched. She too wrote quietly about longing, about small comforts they once shared, about dreams that included him yet seemed impossible to reach. They never met those notes. Occasionally their paths nearly crossed. The city was full of missed connections. Each time they walked past each other without seeing, the universe seemed to tease them. Time taught them patience. It taught them about self-value and about the depth of feelings that survive even when presence fades. He faced challenges that tested his resolve. Every success felt bittersweet because it was not shared with her. He learned to carry triumph quietly. She faced challenges that tested her courage. Every small victory felt hollow without someone who had seen her struggles. She carried gratitude and longing together. They learned to celebrate small joys in solitude, yet every joy was tinted with memory. Every laugh had an echo of a shared smile they once held. The absence forced them to reflect deeply. They understood. Love is not possession, it is care, it is presence. Even when apart, months turned into a year, they had grown as individuals. Their hearts carried scars, but also strength. In one ordinary day, their lives converged unexpectedly. The moment felt different. Time had changed them, yet familiarity remained. They recognized each other instantly, even in a crowd, even in noise. The heart does not forget. They approached carefully, speaking softly, observing each detail. The person they saw was both familiar and new. They shared stories of the year that had passed, the struggles, achievements, growth. The conversation flowed like a river, breaking barriers. Slowly, gently, naturally, for the first time in months, they smiled freely, without fear. The comfort of presence returned, yet richer. Wiser, they understood now that separation had taught them the depth of feeling that could not be seen at first. The longing had become a teacher. Both realized that life had tested them, but love had endured stronger than doubt or absence. That day they walked together, but not as before, slowly, step by step, discovering each other again. Each step carrying care, patience, understanding. They realized love is not always about constant closeness. Sometimes it is about letting growth happen and then returning when the hearts are ready. The city around them continued to move, but for them the world felt calm. In that calm they rediscovered hope. In that hope they remembered the beauty of what they had found. Time had moved on, but the feeling between them never truly left. Life had taught them lessons that no one could teach. They met again in the same quiet place where everything had begun. The city around them continued to move fast, but here time felt slower. He noticed the way she walked. She seemed calmer, yet stronger. He could see the growth in her eyes. The eyes that once carried worry now held understanding and hope. She noticed the way he stood, taller, yet gentle. His presence felt familiar, but with a new depth. She felt the comfort of knowing him again and the excitement of discovering him anew. They did not rush. Words came slowly. Conversations were about life, about change, about the small victories and the hard lessons. They spoke without fear, without pretense. They shared the quiet parts of themselves that had been hidden. The sky turned soft. As evening approached, they walked together slowly, not hurried, not pushing. Each step carried intention, and Carrie, he admitted how much he had thought about her, how absence had taught him patience and the value of moments that seem ordinary, yet when shared they'd become extraordinary. She admitted how much she had longed for him, how space had shown her the strength of her own heart and the depth of feeling she had for him. They realized that love is not always about being close. Sometimes it is about understanding and waiting there. Hands brushed lightly as they walked. The touch was small, but spoke volumes. It was a reassurance. It was a promise that they We're still here for each other. They laughed quietly at old memories, simple things that made them smile softly. The laughter was easy because it was genuine. It was free from fear or expectation. He told her how he had learned to face challenges without losing hope, how each struggle had made him value the people he cared for more deeply. She told him how she had learned to stand strong, yet remain open. How she understood now that love is about patience, about listening, about presence. They shared stories of missed opportunities and regrets. The conversation was honest and raw, yet it was not heavy. It was lightened by understanding and compassion. The city lights began to glow. The noise faded in their shared silence. They walked side by side without feeling the need to fill the space. Their hearts communicated without words. He reached out his hand fully and she held it gently. The connection felt natural, as if it had never been broken. Even after time and absence, the bond was still there. They spoke about the future. Not in grand plans, but in simple hopes, small dreams of shared moments of understanding and support. He admitted he wanted to be present in her life fully. To share not just the easy moments, but the hard ones as well. She admitted she wanted to do the same. To allow someone to be part of her life without fear of losing herself. They realized that true love is not about possession, but about freedom. In Karavanning, turned to night, stars appeared softly in the sky. Their presence felt quiet and constant, like the feeling they held for each other. They stopped walking and stood together, looking up at the stars. Their hands remained intertwined. The silence felt full of understanding and reassurance. He spoke softly about the lessons he had learned from the distance. How each challenge had prepared him to love more fully and openly. She spoke softly about the lessons she had learned. How patience and reflection had strengthened her heart and her understanding of what she truly needed. They both realized that the time apart had not weakened their feelings. It had strengthened them. It had allowed them to grow into the people capable of sustaining the bond that had begun quietly and grown deeply. Night was calm. Their shared presence felt like home. Even without words, they did not rush. They did not rush. They simply existed together in that moment. They remembered small details from their first meetings, the simple smiles, the quiet walks, the moments of shared silence. Each memory was precious and celebrated. He promised to stay present, not because he had to, but because he wanted to, because he valued every shared moment, because he had learned what it meant to wait. And Kershi promised to remain open, not because she was safe, but because she believed in the bond they had built and nurtured. And she understood now that love is about choosing to be present. They walked slowly through quiet streets, sharing soft conversation. Their hearts felt lighter than they had in years. The connection was no longer fragile. It had depth and resilience. They stopped at a small bridge. The water reflected the city lights. They looked at the reflection and saw themselves together and apart. They understood that life had shaped them and prepared them for this return. He spoke of gratitude, how he had learned to appreciate moments even when alone, how each moment shared was now precious, because he had understood. She spoke of gratitude, how she had learned to value her own strength, how sharing it with someone who cared could multiply happiness. She realized that love is not a burden, but a gift. The night grew deeper. Their steps slowed. Their hearts felt full. The city moved on around them, but for this moment the world was theirs. They did not need promises. They did not need labels. They only needed understanding, care, presence, and the quiet acknowledgement that love had endured and grown. Time became unimportant. Their conversation flowed like a river without force. They spoke softly, laughed softly, and simply existed together. He brushed a stray hair from her face gently. She smiled softly at him. Their eyes met and held for a long moment. The feeling between them was unspoken, but deeply understood. They walked home slowly. It's not because they were tired, but because they wanted the journey to last. Each step a celebration of patience, care, growth, and enduring connection. The city lights dimmed in the distance. They paused and looked back at the streets that had once been ordinary. Now they felt sacred, because those streets had witnessed the quiet formation of something extraordinary. They realized that love is not always immediate. It is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet, patient, steady, enduring. It is about being there even when apart, about choosing presence over fear, about caring over rushing. He held her hand a little tighter. She leaned closer in response. The night was theirs. The city was theirs for these few quiet moments. Their hearts were full. They understood now that love had been tested, and it had survived not just because of feeling, but because of patience, understanding, and care. They felt ready to face life together fully. They smiled softly at each other, content yet aware that life would continue to test them, but now they had the strength and understanding to endure together. Night was calm, their hearts intertwined. They knew that the story that had begun quietly had reached a place of deep understanding and enduring beauty. The love that had grown through moments small and large, through separation and reflection, had found its place after months of reunion. Their lives slowly settled into a new rhythm. The bond that had grown quietly and endured separation now found space to grow without fear. They spent more time together, discovering each day anew the ordinary became extraordinary in shared presence. He noticed small details about her every day. The way she concentrated when reading, the way she smiled softly when remembering something. He valued these tiny glimpses into her world. She noticed small details about him, to the way he prepared for the day, the way he listened with full attention. She cherished the thoughtfulness that had been there from the start. Days were filled with small routines, simple moments like sharing a meal, walking quietly side by side, or sitting together watching the city move around them. These routines felt special because they were shared. They spoke about dreams, not just big plans, but small ones, about places to see, books to read, quiet evenings to share. These conversations deepened their understanding and connection. Life was not free from challenge, yet now they faced them together. Each problem was less heavy because they supported each other. Their hearts carried patience and resilience. They learned that love is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet. It is being present when no one notices, when life demands attention, and when it tests strength. One morning he prepared breakfast. She watched him with quiet appreciation. The act felt simple, yet full of meaning. Because it was done for someone he cared for deeply. She shared her work and daily thoughts. He listened attentively. They laughed softly at small frustrations. They supported each other in ways that spoke louder than words. Of Nings were for reflection. They spoke about the past, about how far they had come, about the growth they had both experienced. They remembered the moments that had shaped their bond. They celebrated small victories together. They felt joy in accomplishments and growth. The laughter was natural. The smiles were genuine. The happiness rooted in shared experience. Challenges continued to appear. Work pressure, family responsibilities, unexpected events. At each challenge was met with patience and care. They learned to communicate openly without fear. They discovered that understanding each other meant listening deeply. Sometimes words were not necessary. The presence itself was reassuring. The touch of a hand, a glance, a quiet nod spoke volumes. Sometimes they spent time in silence, together in shared calmness, listening to the city, listening to their own hearts. These moments felt sacred because they reflected trust and comfort. They continued to learn about each other. Daily discoveries kept the connection alive. Little habits, little reactions, little preferences. They noticed and respected each detail. One day they visited a quiet park. The trees swayed softly. The sunlight filtered through leaves. They walked slowly. Together they shared memories, not only of the past year, but of moments before. They had understood the depth of feeling. He spoke about the patience he had learned, the strength that absence had taught him, the value of small moments shared with care. She spoke about courage. She had discovered the importance of openness and trust, the realization that love is about choosing presence and care. Every day they held hands as they walked. The touch was gentle yet firm. The connection was calm but powerful. It was a reassurance and a celebration of endurance. They spoke about the future again, not in grand plans, but in hopes of continued presence, of support, of shared quiet moments. They understood that love is built in small, consistent actions. They laughed about small mistakes, small misunderstandings. They accepted imperfection as part of life. They celebrated the effort and care rather than flawlessness. Were spent quietly, sometimes reading, sometimes talking, sometimes simply existing together. The closeness felt natural, not forced, not hurried. It It was simply being together with awareness and care. They remembered the moments of separation, not with pain, but with understanding. Those experiences had shaped them, had made their connection stronger, had given depth to their bond. They shared gratitude. Often without words, their actions reflected appreciation for each other. For the small gestures, the presence, the understanding, they realized love is about noticing and valuing. Evenings turned into nights. They watched the city lights glow softly. Each light seemed to echo the gentle warmth in their hearts. They felt calm and safe in shared presence. They continued to face challenges, but each time they overcame with patience and care. Each experience deepened understanding. Each solution strengthened connection. They discovered joy in small surprises, small acts of thoughtfulness, small gestures of support and comfort. Each act deepened trust and affection. Life continued moving around them. The city never paused, yet they moved through it with their own rhythm. Small and steady, their bond provided calmness amidst chaos. They shared hopes and fears openly. There was no need for pretense, no need for hiding. Emotion and honesty became the foundation of their shared life. They learned that vulnerability builds strength when met with care. Days became weeks, weeks became months. They observed each other growing. They observed themselves changing. They celebrated resilience and love intertwined. They walked together at dusk's street's quiet, gentle breeze. Both felt the ordinary around them transform into something special because it was shared. They understood now the power of presence, the value of patience, the beauty of enduring love. Each step reminded them of beginnings of small touches, small smiles, quiet conversations, shared silences.
All moments that had slowly built the depth.
They now felt he held her hand gently. She leaned into him softly. The city continued its noise around them, but their hearts were calm. The connection was steady, strong, deep. They knew now that love is not about dramatic gestures or perfect timing. It is about patience, consistency, care, understanding, and presence even. Through distance, even through challenges, even through time, they celebrated small moments every day, the warmth of shared coffee, the comfort of a quiet evening, the joy of being together without expectation. These small acts became sacred rituals. They also faced difficult days, yet each challenge reminded them of growth, reminded them of support, reminded them of the endurance of bond. Love had become resilience. They learned to face difficulties together with patience and trust. They discovered that joy is multiplied when shared and pain is halved. When carried together, that realization strengthened them. Every step, every word, every glance became meaningful. They spent time reflecting on the journey, not only the reunion, but the entire story of connection, separation, growth, and return. They saw beauty in each stage. They felt grateful for lessons learned. Time passed gently. They grew in understanding and patience. Their connection became a quiet force anchored in shared presence and care. They realized that true love is steady, not loud, not forced. It is patient, it is enduring, it is human, and it grows through understanding and shared experience. They held hands at sunset, watching the sky glow softly. The world continued around them, but for this moment, all that mattered was presence, care, connection, and shared quiet joy. They knew that life would continue to test them. The challenges would appear, that moments of doubt might return. Yet they felt ready because they had grown together. They had patience and understanding. They had love that had endured and deepened. The days that followed felt calm yet full of quiet excitement. They had learned to treasure the ordinary moments. Each day together became a chance to understand each other more deeply. He noticed how her eyes lit up when she spoke about simple joys. The warmth in her tone filled his heart. He realized that attention to small things was a form of love. She noticed how he carried himself with care, even in small routines. How he thought of her needs and feelings without needing to be reminded. She appreciated his patience and quiet thoughtfulness. They spent mornings together, sharing breakfast and conversation. Sometimes they spoke of dreams, sometimes of memories, sometimes simply observing the world around them. They discovered that silence could be comforting when shared. Each evening brought reflection. They spoke about how much they had grown, how separation and patience had shaped them into people capable of enduring love. They realized that challenges had strengthened the bond. They walked through parks and streets hand in hand, observing simple things.
Ow.
Birds moving across the sky, children playing in quiet corners. They laughed softly at small observations. Finding joy in shared experience, challenges continued to arise. Work pressure, responsibilities, unexpected events, yet now they faced them together. They listened and supported. Each problem became lighter because it was carried together, he learned. To express care openly, not just through actions, but also through words. Even small sentences carried meaning. Her presence encouraged him to share without fear. She learned to accept support without hesitation. She realized that receiving care does not make one weak, but strengthens the connection between hearts. They discovered that giving and receiving are equal in love. They spoke of the past, softly, not to relive pain, but to understand the lessons. They shared moments of struggle and fear, recognizing how each had grown from experience. Of Nings were often spent in quiet companionship, sometimes reading, sometimes speaking, sometimes simply sitting together, watching the city lights flicker softly. Their hearts felt calm. They continued to celebrate small victories. Each achievement became shared joy. Each small act of kindness became meaningful. They realized that life is a series of small moments that form the bigger story. One afternoon, they visited a place that held memories of earlier meetings. The space seemed unchanged, yet everything felt different because they had grown. They walked slowly, reminiscing. Each detail brought smiles and gentle laughter. He spoke about how absence had taught patience, how longing had shown the value of small moments. They realized that distance can deepen understanding if hearts remain connected. She spoke about how reflection had built courage, how trusting and waiting had strengthened her heart. She understood that love is not about immediate fulfillment, but about growth. Together, they held hands as they moved through the space. Their connection felt steady and calm, not rushed, not forced. Each gesture reflected presence, care, and understanding. Nights were often filled with quiet reflection. They watched the sky darken softly. The stars began to appear like gentle reminders of continuity and hope. They shared thoughts about the future, not grand ambitions, but hopes of continued understanding, of daily care and attention. They knew that sustaining love is about choice, patience, and shared presence. They laughed at minor mistakes, remembering times when misunderstandings had seemed large. They realized that patience and compassion are more important than perfection. Each day, they discovered new things about each other. Little habits, little preferences, little quirks. They noticed and valued each detail, learning that love thrives in understanding. They took walks in the evening, observing life unfolding around them. Simple things like the rustle of leaves, the movement of water, the quiet chatter of passers-by became shared moments of appreciation. Learn to listen deeply, noticing emotions, unspoken noticing, subtle reactions, and responding with care. She learned to speak openly, sharing thoughts, fears, and hopes without hesitation. Together, they faced unexpected challenges. Not everything in life was easy, but now each obstacle became manageable. They understood the power of mutual support and understanding. They celebrated the small joys of life, simple meals, shared laughter, quiet evenings. The ordinary became extraordinary because it was shared. They remembered times of separation, not with sadness, but with appreciation for lessons learned, for patience, for resilience, for understanding. That period had prepared them for enduring love. Each night, they held each other close. Not needing words, the shared presence became reassurance and comfort. They discovered that love is about continuous connection and care. They reflected on the journey so far, the quiet beginnings, the hesitant friendship, the trials and tests, the separation and growth, the reunion and steady love. They saw the beauty in the entire story. They realized that true love grows in patience, in attention, in shared experience, in understanding. It is not about dramatic gestures, but about presence, care, consistency, and respect. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. Each shared moment strengthened the bond, each challenge overcome added depth to connection. They felt prepared for whatever life would bring. They discovered joy in ordinary actions, making tea for each other, walking together through quiet streets, observing small things, sharing thoughts, listening deeply. Each act became a thread weaving a tapestry of enduring love. Time flowed gently. They grew together, learning patience, compassion, resilience, and understanding. Each day a reminder that love is cultivated, not demanded. They walked at dusk, observing the city. Lights glow softly, their hands intertwined. The ordinary world felt special because they shared it. Their hearts felt full and steady. They knew that life would continue to test them, that challenges would arise, yet they felt ready because the love they shared had endured and deepened through experience and reflection. They smiled softly at each other, comfortable in presence, careful in words, gentle in gestures. They understood now that enduring love is a quiet force built from patience, understanding, and shared humanity. They paused to watch the stars appear, their hearts full, their connection steady. They felt calm and safe together, knowing that the bond had been tested and strengthened and would continue to grow in the days to come. They discovered that every ordinary moment shared is extraordinary when hearts are connected, that patience, care, reflection, and presence are the true foundations of love. They felt gratitude for each other, for the journey, for the lessons learned, and for the quiet joy of enduring connection. They continued walking together, slowly observing life around them, finding beauty in small things, finding comfort in presence, finding strength in connection. They realized that love is about being fully present and consistently caring.